Well, praise the Lord, saints and friends. This is Elder Adrian Hammond. And this is one of those sessions that we're dealing with Revelation. And we've just finished the first 4 chapters. Most people who deal with Revelation, they deal with the first 3. Maybe they go to the 4th chapter. And they skip all the way to the 21st, 22nd chapter. But this is really the meat of the book, from chapters 5 through 20. And it's very needful for us to understand what's going on in these chapters. Not only is because this is what is being foretold for the future, but the whole idea of Revelation is that he who overcomes, as what was said in the letters to the 7 churches, is he who overcomes, and he that preaches the loudest, and he that sings the best, and he who organizes the best, and he who essentially gives the most. Although that may not be bad, that's not what this is about. It's about he who overcomes. And so Revelation begins to then tell what is it that needs to be overcome. And it gets worse and worse until when it seems that nothing can stop the world from completely destroying itself. Jesus comes, because he's the only answer. He will always be the only true answer. So now we're beginning with chapter number 5 of Revelation. John has been transported via the vision, not for real, but via the vision that he had, from the Isle of Patmos to heaven's throne. And he sees one sitting on the throne who's brilliant. I mean, in appearance, he's dazzling. I could probably see, all you can see is light, probably, that's been split in several splendid colors, as light shining through a prism, through a jewelry stone. Then around them, or around the throne, flies 4 living creatures, which we were able to ascertain that they represented all of nature. All of nature worships God. You have the 24 elders, which if you look at it from both Old and New Testament, that's what the church is built upon, both the Old and the New Testaments, the prophets and the apostles, the tribes and the disciples. Now comes where the meat of Revelation is being introduced. Verse number 1, Revelation 5. And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. A book. Now, you have to understand what a book looked like in the days of John. It wasn't the books that we get at Barnes & Noble or at your friendly neighborhood Walmart, or even those that you order from Amazon. These are scrolls. And so if you can't see from the scroll itself, and usually most things are wrapped up, so you can't understand what's inside. However, there is some comparisons, and I want to kind of go through that so you understand what's taking place. The one on the throne, who we know is God Almighty, he has a book. He has a scroll in his right hand. And this scroll has writing inside of it. You can see a little bit on the outside as well. It says within and on the backside. So there is some writing on the backside. Now, I'm assuming that it's probably not a title to this particular book or scroll, but it does have some things that the person should know about what's on the scroll. And I want to give as a parallel, when you go to buy a book, now most of the time you get the book because of the title. And someone's already told you about the title, so you say, oh, title, okay, go get it. Let's say you'd have no idea what the book contains. And the title is just there to entice you. You don't really know what's in the book. You don't know if it's, for instance, if it's a fiction versus nonfiction, although you can usually tell by, they usually put lurid pictures on them so to attract you if it's fiction. But even if it's nonfiction, it's, for instance, you may not understand what it's all about, but the picture may show you, give you an idea. But still, it only gives you a general idea. Remember, it's to entice you. That the front cover of a book is to entice you. So to draw you in. Now, the back cover may have a synopsis of the book. Again, doesn't tell you everything that's inside, but it gives you the general idea. And so it gives you a little bit more idea than the front, because it at least goes into a little detail as to what it's all about. Of course, if it's a 100-page book, it can't tell everything on that one side. On the back side, it can't tell you anything about it. It can't tell you everything about it, tell you something about it, but not everything, because if you can't put everything in on one page. But at least gives you something. So it kind of wets your whistle. You look at the front, interesting. You look at the back, oh, okay, this is what it's about. And then maybe it'll entice you to look inside. And that's how most books are that we make nowadays, whether it's a paperback, hardcover. So, in fact, hardcover is even more so because it's the sleeve that has the information. The hardcover itself may not have very much on it because it's a hardcover. It protects the book from being damaged, so to speak, at least more easily damaged. But the cover that slides onto the hard part of the binding of the book then tells you something of what goes on inside. But what it doesn't do is give you a blow-by-blow account what's going on. It's only there to entice you to get the book. It gives you that, I may like to see it, but just reading the title and the back cover doesn't really give you everything about the book. It doesn't. It can't. So if you're thinking about it in that way, you could think about it in this scroll. The scroll has things on the inside, of course, because it has to be written down. Many scrolls don't have anything written on the back side because everything that they wanted to see is on the inside cover, and you have to open up the scroll to see. In this case, though, there was something written on the backside. Now, the thing was, it was enough possibly to pique John's interest, but it was not enough for him to get a good understanding of what was inside of the scroll. Now, the scroll was sealed. That means that you couldn't open it. And it was 7 seals placed strategically where you couldn't open it without tearing the entire scroll. And usually if there's a seal on something, remember the seal that was put upon the tomb of Christ. That meant that only one with authority, proper authority, could open up the tomb. If anyone else did it, they were subject to execution. That's how serious a seal is, or was. And for a scroll, it's probably even more so. To have 7 of them means you have to have the authority to open all 7 seals in order for you to be able to look inside. Being that this was in the hand of God, it meant that someone had to be extremely important in order for them to open these 7 seals. And just so that you know, I'm going to explain a little bit. I may do it again at some other time in the near future, but in order to open the seals, number one, you have to have the authority to do it. But also, number 2, as the seals were opened, things happened. So every time a seal was opened, things would happen where? On the earth. So there was a relation between the opening of the seals and what takes place on the earth. These are things that essentially were events that would mark a very, not special time, but a very something that happened that would be substantial to the populations and the nations of the earth. So the opening of the seals in themselves were extremely important. But don't lose sight of the whole idea. The whole idea was to open the scroll or open the book. So the seals themselves being opened, that's one thing. And there were things that took place in regards to it. But the objective, remember, the objective was not just to see what the seals produced, but the objective is to see what an opening of the seals reveal or reveals. And that essentially is the meat of the book of Revelation. In other words, if the seals are not entirely open, I mean, all 7 seals have to be loosed. Unless those 7 seals are not or loose, unless they're loosed, there could be no seeing what takes place in the future. In other words, no revealing to John of what's going to happen to the world, to the church, to the Jews, to Satan, and to the earth itself. So it's very important, if we're going to understand what's going to happen. This is essentially the most comprehensive picture or panorama of future events that the Bible has in its possession. There are snippets of it. Sometimes these snippets are actually not just snippets, but they're some narrative. Daniel's one. Zechariah's another. Right now we're going through Ezekiel in the Midnight Cry. That's another one. Isaiah has a few things. But in terms of it being comprehensive, dealing with a particular period of time, and in the future that goes on not only from that time, but goes on through eternity, this book, this vision by John, is the most comprehensive of all of the books written in the entire Bible regarding that subject. And so it's imperative for this book that's in the hand of God, it's imperative for this book to be opened. Now it says 7 seals. That's also a significant number. As we remember, in Revelation, numbers play a part. Optics play a part. Colors play a part. And as you see, even descriptions of what would be the beast or people, they signify a part. And so the number 7 here deals with the complete unveiling of what God has for us in the future. Without all of the 7 being unveiled or being loosed, there is no unveiling. You can't just do one of them, or 2, or even 6. 6 won't do. Has to be all 7. So now the drama of the situation becomes heightened. Now things become more tense because there's a new element that's been introduced to this scene in heaven. And this element is going to dictate the rest of this vision or the rest of this book. Without the opening of the 7 seals, there is no revelation. Period. And so, in order for us to understand it, and John wanted to know. And if John wanted to know in those days, we should want to know in these days. Whereas now the Lord has given us an understanding. As the understanding of these particular things have become unsealed, just like Daniel's prophecies are being unsealed, so we can understand them in this context, and we find out that they delve right in together with each other. The prophecies of Daniel versus the prophecies of John, they do not crosshairs, or they're not at cross. They don't they don't disagree with each other. They're in sync. So I don't know about you, saints, but as the narrative goes on, getting more and more excited as Revelation goes on, as it begins to reveal more and more what we should be looking for. That's why Revelation is so important. If we don't know Revelation, everything that happens will be a surprise. But if we read Revelation and we see what's going on in this world right now, we can see how close we are to everything that's being stated being fulfilled. May God bless you and may he keep you. Until next time, saints, Maranatha.